It is income tax filing season. In case you've been living under a rock, the commercials are showing on our televisions, our radio, and things of that nature. So it's important for us to take the necessary steps to make sure we are properly filing our income taxes. Now, I've done a little bit of research, but that's why I'm being joined right now by an actual professional who can break things down. And with us right here live on The Splash, we have CPA from West Bloomfield, Certified Public Accountant, Leslie Jones. Thank you for being here, Leslie.
No problem. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. Thank you for asking first and foremost. Now, like I mentioned, I have a little bit of research, some notes here, but I don't even want to give out misinformation, which is why I have you here. I want to start off by talking about the differences. Now, there's mistakes that people make, and then there's trends and challenges that people face when filing their taxes. Let's start with the challenges and trends. Are there any unique challenges or trends that you've observed in tax preparation, specifically from residents of West Bloomfield?
I have. So there's a lot of high earners in West Bloomfield, specifically our W-2 wages. And those people with children, a lot of times we depend on the child tax credit. And for the last couple years, specifically this year and last year, there's an income phase out. And so that tax liability, you're not getting that $2,000 credit. That's one of the things that I've noticed, specifically for those people who have the high earners on W-2 wages. Also, some of the things that I've noticed with people who own real estate, not taking advantage of all of the different credits and deductions out there for the real estate, for their real estate investment properties. And then lastly, one of the things I noticed was, the people who work from home, right? So there's a lot of people that are working from home in West Bloomfield. A lot of times they have jobs in different states. I've noticed that sometimes they don't withhold tax in that state, but they're earning income. So you just have to be careful and make sure you're working with a tax professional who can help you navigate making sure they're paying the right amount of taxes for those specific states.
Ooh, Leslie, I'm gonna be honest, that sounds like some muddy water that you can get into a lot of trouble with if you are not filing your taxes correctly. So let's go into the second part of that, which are the mistakes. What are some of the most common tax filing mistakes that you see amongst some of your clients, and how can they avoid them?
Sometimes, people want to use their last W-2 to file their taxes. That's a big mistake. Not proactively tax planning throughout the year, and then having a huge tax liability during tax season. And then not coordinating. So if you are, say, separated or divorced, not coordinating with your other half on who's going to claim the dependent.
Good point. Good point. That is a conversation that should be had in regards to receiving or even benefiting from that child tax credit, like you mentioned before earlier. So thank you for pointing some of those things out for our listeners and our audience in general, because like we said, we are in tax filing or tax preparation season. Join us right here live on The Splash, CPA from West Bloomfield, Leslie Jones, talking about tax preparation and filing in the 2025 tax season. Now, property taxes. How do you see West Bloomfield property taxes impacting residents' financial planning, and are there any exemptions that they should be aware of?
So there is an exemption. It is called the principal resident exemption that a lot of people don't know about, but it has to be your primary residence. The property taxes in West Bloomfield, they're a little higher because obviously the properties are a bit higher in the state of Michigan. But this particular exemption, you would have to actually fill out an affidavit and submit it to the state.
Okay. Thank you for giving us that information. If you are a homeowner in the state of Michigan, specifically Greater West Bloomfield, please take advantage of tax credits like that. It'll definitely save a little bit more money in your pocket towards the end of the year. I want to ask you also, we mentioned W-2. tax filings a lot, which is just individual employees earning from their employers. What about business? Do you involve yourself in business taxes also?
Absolutely, absolutely. So being proactive with business, number one, record keeping is key. So making sure we're maximizing the qualified business income deduction that's based on your business income, maximizing all of the deductions and credits, being proactive with planning, making sure. So for the past couple years, we had a bonus depreciation that is in a phase out period. I believe in 24 it was 40%. And then in 25, it's going to be 20%, but that's huge. So if you're thinking about buying major assets that you would normally just use a smaller depreciation, that 40% of depreciation of costs, that's a huge tax deduction. Some of the other items to consider for small businesses would be business structure, just making sure with, your tax professional or CPA that you're in the correct business structure. So you're getting the most benefit based on your certain individual business activity.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you for those tips, those best practices for small business owners right here in the greater West Bloomfield area. Even if you are working from home, those are some great tips for you to keep in mind. But I also want to ask, keeping it on that scale, are there any common mistakes that you see from business owners when it comes to filing their taxes?
Just not having accurate record keeping, not paying those quarterly estimated taxes. You have to do check-ins throughout the year because if your income is high, you need to be sending in if you're self-employed, and then also ignoring like the Uber drivers and DoorDash. That is considered self-employment income, and most people don't pay taxes, but it's still income. So you have to send in estimated tax payments based upon income. So
Good point.
that's a huge common mistake that I've seen.
Oh my goodness! Wow, great point right there. I know a few friends who have drove DoorDash or Uber Eats or Uber or Lyft, and I mean, I don't ask whether or not they file those taxes, but that is something that people should keep in mind because they don't take taxes out when you are driving DoorDash or Uber Eats. So it's literally your responsibility as an independent contractor to make sure you do file those taxes at the end of the year, and we appreciate that information. Once again, joining us live on The Splash, Certified Public Accountant, CPA from West Bloomfield, Leslie Jones, talking about tax filing preparation and best tips and practices as well. There have been a few different changes and updates when it comes to federal and state tax laws. Are there any recent changes from the federal or state tax laws that might affect our greater West Bloomfield residents?
So from a federal perspective, you have the standard deduction that's increased, but that's favorable. So that's a good thing. One of the major things that I've saw that I know would specifically affect West Bloomfield residents is to keep in mind of the estate and gift tax. There is a $12 million exemption. It's a lifetime exemption. 2025 is the last year that you can take advantage of that, and then it's going to drop significantly to about $5 million starting in 2026. So I would say that would more so affect for this particular year to consider in your tax planning when you're looking at 2025 taxes for next year.
Seems like 2025 seems to be a very impactful year when it comes to taxes, tax filing, and preparation. And we appreciate you for giving out that information. Don't want to hold you up too much longer, but just lastly, any additional information, advice, practices, tips, or even strategies you would recommend for some of the high-income earners in West Bloomfield or even just earners in general?
Tax planning. Tax planning is key. Do not wait until tax season to start looking at your taxes. Tax professional, work with a financial advisor or a wealth advisor. Build a team, and that way you can protect your assets and your income from paying high taxes.
Listen, I literally couldn't have said it any better. With you being the expert and the professional, is so much value to what you say. Once again, we want to thank you for all the information that you gave to us here today on our platform. And CPA, Certified Public Accountant from West Bloomfield, Leslie Jones, we want to thank you again for your time.
Thank you for having me.